Today's video production was commissioned by Aia Kansas. The American Institute of Architects in Kansas is the state chapter of the American Institute of Architects. Aia Kansas provides services and programs to meet the needs and interests of Kansas architects and develop public awareness of the value of architects and architecture. Our 700 plus members are leaders in building healthy, sustainable communities that will serve our citizens into the future. Visit aiaks.org to learn more about membership benefits and our current advocacy efforts.
Welcome everybody. My name is Garrick Baker, licensed architect with Bruce McMillan Architects. On behalf of Aia Kansas and our co-sponsors for this video, Trinium Incorporated, I would like to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedules to attend today's video tour of the Douglas Recreation Center. The Douglas Recreation Center is one of 3 currently active construction sites being built as a quality of life improvement project within all of these busy neighborhoods. Prior to 2015, our colleagues Anderson Knight Architects and their consultants, RDG Planning, looked at a community needs assessment that would address the needs moving into the future. What that study revealed is that a top priority for the community would be an increase in indoor playing facilities. Following that study, our firm, Bruce McMillan Architects, was consulted with Schaefer Johnson & Cox Fry out of Wichita, Kansas, to perform a strategic facilities study. That study looked at all of the existing facilities located within the city limits of Manhattan, as well as the implementation of 3 additional facilities. Adding 3 facilities onto the roster of the Parks and Recreation indoor playing surfaces would need to look at the implementation and operational costs moving forward, not just currently, but well into the future. Because not only do we have to build these facilities, we also have to make sure that they are operational and self-sustaining. Through that strategic facilities improvement study, we enlisted the help of over 20 community members, such as Parks and Rec Advisory Board members, Douglas Park Advisory Board members, the community at large, all of the user groups that would be using these facilities, as well as USD 383. The partnership with USD 83 saw 2 facilities be removed and put onto a bond issue that was later voted on and are currently undergoing construction and part of other tours today. The Douglas Recreation Center, however, was going to be funded through alternative methods such as the Community Development Block Grant funds. Those funds are federally funded, so it doesn't come out of local taxpaying dollars. So our design fees were actually paid through these federal funds, which made it a little more economical to actually implement the building. Whenever we were originally contracted, the design phase looked at several needs and amenities that the community at large would like to have, especially down here in Douglas Park. There was a need for pickleball courts, basketball courts, as well as community rooms, fitness rooms, and indoor changing spaces, and even an exterior access restroom so that folks out here on the basketball courts could go in, use the restrooms without using the entire facility. The courts themselves are set up to where they can actually have multi-uses: volleyball, badminton, basketball, pickleball. It was designed in a manner to be able to suit the entire community here. Certain amenities include the lobby space. The lobby is a 2-story space that is open to the mezzanine and goes all the way back into a community room, as well as off to the side for the changing and restroom space. From that lobby space, we do have an indoor office with views both of the lobby and the gymnasium. This allows those working the space to see who is not only entering the space, but how the space is being used. There is also an office for the manager to sit further back. Off to one side, we do have the elevator, and then on the opposite side of that, we do have the community room. The community room is meant to house all types of activities from foosball, pool table, as well as night classes for community members wanting to further their careers in the afternoons and evening hours. We do have ADA accessible restrooms that include changing spaces and plenty of space in there for even athletic wheelchairs. Moving into the gymnasium space, we do have the courts set up to actually house not only a high school regulation but college regulation basketball. Going crossways, we do have 2 cross courts that makes it convenient to actually have multiple practices going on at once, or to accommodate tournament play. We also have 2 college regulation-sized volleyball courts and 2 pickleball courts that also sit on those as well. All of the nets will be dropping down from the ceiling so that this space feels that much more convenient, and we have it all operational from a tablet within the office. So users can go inside and say, we would like to play volleyball, and whoever's working can push a button, and the space is set up for volleyball. Upstairs, we have a 3-lane walking track, as well as a fitness area off to the side. If the city would like to put in any kind of weightlifting equipment or any kind of aerobic classes or anything up there, they would have plenty of open space to do that. Off to the side, we also have an enclosed fitness room to where scheduled classes for yoga, aerobics, or spin classes could also be held as well. Following all of that, we brought this design in front of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board Committee. They then approved the project to move into the public hearing phase, to where we were allowed to present it all to the public to get their feedback and make sure that we were meeting our requirements. Following that feedback, we were able to tweak that design and continue moving forward. While we were doing that, the folks at City Hall were going through several processes, such as obtaining a variance to remove the setback from 10 and 15 feet all the way to 0. So we could approach the streets as much as we needed to with the building to make as much use of the space as we could. Once we obtained all of that, we were able to go through the City Commission and gain approval there for a budget of roughly $3.8 million for this building behind me. And at this time, I would like to bring in our co-sponsor, Trinium Incorporated, and project engineer, Brandon Beanhoff. Brandon, welcome.
Good morning, I'm Brandon Beanhoff, a project engineer with Trinium Incorporated. I'd like to talk a little bit about the bid process. So once the architects go through with the owner what they're wanting, what is needed, the architects go and post the jobs online on a bidding website where any contractor can go take a look at that. So we went, took a look at it, decided we did want to pursue it. So our estimator, Jason, in the office, put together a bid solicitation. This solicitation then gets sent out to our subcontractors, and they can say yes or no whether they would like to bid with us as well. If they do say yes, come bid day, we have a group of people in the office that get together and take specific scopes of work and go through, comb through, make sure everybody has something covered and that the bid is whole and complete. Once bids are whole and complete, we get with Jason, who then inserts it into a bid tab that is completed about 30 minutes before bid time, and a bid runner then runs to wherever the location, I think here was City Hall, needs to be dropped off, waits for a phone call, writes in final numbers, and presents it to McMillan Architects for bid opening. A bid opening consists of all of the bids from contractors being opened on site at the time of turn-in, and the apparent low is then read and determined then. Once that happens, it goes back to the architect and owner to discuss, see what alternates they would like to pursue, and get with the companies they think are in the running. Sometimes value engineering is inputted into this stage to get price reduction. And once that happens, we do get an official notice to proceed. Once we have a notice to proceed, we go to the city with plans to the code enforcement office, and we have them take the plans, review the plans, and issue permits. Once a permit is issued, we can start construction, and as you can see, we have gotten our permit here and started construction back in March. We are anticipated to finish up at the end of December on this project and turn it over to the community in mid-January.
So following that bidding process, once those prices and everything are received by our office, we then review those bids in order to make sure that not only do our estimates match what we have presented to the clients, but that those prices will meet the needs and that they look reasonable to be presented. We will present those cost estimates to the City Commission, and in this case we did, and the low bidder was going to be $3.8 million for this project. The City Commission then takes it into consideration and city staff recommendations. Once that recommendation is read and approved, then the City Commission can vote to approve or deny the bid. In this case, they did award the bid to Trinium Incorporated. So, Brandon, once the bid is accepted and once all of the plans have been reviewed and it makes sure that everything is up to code, I guess, what is the first step in getting a site ready for a project of this size and magnitude?
So first we take a look at our bids that we received. We go through the kind of first step in the process, which is reviewing bids, making sure everything is whole and complete again, handing off to a project manager who then will get a project engineer to assist on projects. Once that happens, we go to temporary facilities. So we got a site fence rented here. Then we go looking for a porta-john for our guys to use during construction phases. And then we look for a local dumpster company. Here we used Tarkio Dumpster. And then we start writing subcontracts, putting subcontracts together, getting them out, and starting that construction phase.
Nice, thank you. So what were some of the major considerations that we needed to look at here? Obviously with Fort Riley Boulevard back there, and with all of the community buildings around here, what impact did that have on your planning for the project?
I think we looked more at a safety feature in this sense, as we do have a 4-lane highway on the south side of our project. We've got kids playing on the north side all the time on this playground. So really just keeping that fence up, keeping it up to date, making sure everything is sealed up tight at the end of the night, and just kind of working with the local police department to make sure they get a couple extra patrols at night, making sure everything is tight, nobody's on site, nobody's doing anything they shouldn't be doing at night.
So once we have secured our site and we've got all of our site preparations ready, can you walk me through some of the larger aspects, such as the pre-engineered metal building and the stone, and some of the steps that had to go into making that happen?
Yeah, so on bid day, we do get bids from manufacturers as well as subcontractors that would install items. This pre-engineered building is one that came out of Oklahoma here. So what they do is they take a look at the documents, they put together an estimate. Once that estimate is put together and their bid is accepted, they go through the design process. So they'll take a look at structural drawings. Once they see what they have to work with, they'll start putting a building together, and then we get into a submittal process. A submittal process is them putting the documentation together, sending over to Trinium to review. Once we review, we make notes and send it off to the architects, Macmillan, for review as well. They take a look at it, they send it to their engineers to look at, and if approved, it does come back to us. We send it to our building manufacturer and they start the manufacturing process. If it is not accepted, then we go into a revision process where the documents are revised and sent on for that whole review again. Once that is complete and everything is accepted, we go into the manufacturing stage. Lead times here, especially on a metal building, are about 5 to 6 weeks out. So once we got that all done, we had the design documents and our manufacturer started manufacturing the building and keeping us updated onto when we could see that. So with that, we put together a CPM schedule, construction project manager schedule, and it has all of these dates incorporated in there. These dates are dates we need to hit to complete a project on time, and so far we are doing a pretty good job of hitting those dates. Going to masonry, we also go through those same processes, submittals, a sample of the stone that is to be installed, and once approved, we do move forward on that, manufacturing stones, getting them into production. Then we get our mason on site to install. He does a mock-up for the architects to review. Once that mock-up is approved, he will get started on the stone and installing around the building.
So Brandon, circling back to the pre-engineered metal building, what all did that entail of putting that up?
So once that steel arrives on site, it comes in on semis. We then take it off with the forklift and stage it around. As you can see, our site does not have a ton of space, so we have gone to the city and talked to them, asked if we could go to Griffith Park and have a laydown area, and they did approve that. So just a block away, we had our laydown area at the park in their parking lot. And once we are ready to install, we called a crane company to come out here. They brought a 275-ton crane. Don't remember how high it stretched, but it was up there quite a ways. They proceeded to pick columns, pick the beams, and swing them into place while our erector installed those. Circling back to safety on that, we had our crane radius taped off. That way nobody could walk in that area. If you were going to go by the crane, you had to make eye contact with that crane operator to make sure he knew where you were and that you were there. On the side for installing, we had our operator in the crane. He also had a flagman out on site with the walkie-talkie to talk to him, to let him know what needed to happen since he was swinging blind with our masonry already installed. And then getting close to Fort Riley, we just had to be cautious of wind to make sure there was no wind blowing south. That way it wouldn't blow anything towards the street.
That's why I know safety was a really big concern down here with all of the kids playing on the park, and just all of these buildings have been staying in use, especially the Flint Hills Bread Basket. Folks have been able to come out and make donations there throughout the entire construction process. People have been using all of the community buildings down here, as well as the churches and the courts too. I know I've seen people down here playing on this as well. Going from talking about courts here, on the interior of the space, what all is that going to take to install that athletic sports flooring in there? And what were the considerations that we had to look at for that installation?
So this is a rolled sports flooring. It does come out of a factory in France. With COVID, as you know, a lot of factories have closed down, so back in March when we submitted on this, we did put the order in. It has arrived here in the United States already and is sitting in a warehouse ready to be installed. So looking at that, we had our long lead item there. With those concerns, we did want to get it ordered early. Then we go into installation process. We had to get the concrete pretty much perfect. We had an 1/8 of an inch within 10 feet, which is a little bit better than what the spec had read. Once that was complete, then they will come out here, do some moisture testing, take a look at what the concrete is, what kind of water is coming through it, if any, and determine what they need to do to the sports floor before they can install it. This is a 9mm product, so it is on the thicker end of these sports flooring. It'll be good cushion for running, for playing basketball, as well as give the bounce that you're looking for with the wood floor.
And I'm glad you brought up COVID. Has that changed anything within like the construction industry? I believe you had alluded to some of the lead time items for some of the items coming overseas. But as far as site preparations or site safety, I know we've all got our masks and everything, but what other considerations do you guys see due to the current situation?
So we've seen a lot of items that are long lead have become longer lead. They've been a little harder to get since people are cutting back on work hours, people are working from home, all of that. We've seen that impact schedule just a little bit. We are working through it right now. As far as on-site safety, we do have a mask requirement if you cannot stay 6 feet apart. With this big facility, we are maintaining that pretty well. We've got sign-ins at the beginning of each day, who's on site, who the contact is for each company. That way, if something does happen, we can contact everybody immediately, let them know what's going on, let them know if somebody's getting tested. Thankfully, we have not had to do that yet. For now, we've done a pretty good job at moving forward, staying safe, and continuing the project.
So going back to schedule there, how does a contractor go about putting together a schedule for a $4 million project, that, especially with some of the uncertainties that go with that?
So we kind of build backwards on these schedules. We look at what date we want to end on. This one we wanted to end a little bit before the actual turnover date, just so we can tidy anything up. So we look at that end date, then we go back and look at long lead items. We've got an elevator in here that takes 11 weeks to manufacture. We've got that sports flooring that took about 2 months to get from overseas to the United States. We've got the pre-engineered building. So we have those big milestones on there. Once we have the big milestones, we say, what do we need to do before that happens? So then we fill in the little things. We need to get the masonry installed. We need to get concrete poured. We need to get window frames going, all of that kind of stuff. And once that happens, we go to even smaller. So we need to frame this wall at this point, have the rough in at this time. That way we can cover it up, get everything ready for paint, for flooring to be installed.
Brandon, with the size of this project, is this like a typical size project that Trinium Incorporated would like to go after? Or can you tell me a little bit more about the type of work you guys do?
Yeah, so this is about a medium range project, something we chase. We've gone as high as 12 million. We go down to divisional work. We do that as well as GCing projects, general contractor on site. This one is, like I said, a middle range. We do have one superintendent on site. We've got carpenters going in and out. We do self-perform a few items. Division 8, doors, frames, and hardware. We install all the doors, frames, and hardware on projects. Then we go into Division 6. We do all our own blocking, backing, installation of casework, countertops, that kind of stuff. Any wood trim that does go into these projects, we will install ourselves. And then we go Division 10, which is specialties. So we install all the toilet partitions, grab bars, paper towel dispensers, soap dispensers. In restrooms, we do TV brackets as well. So that's kind of what we're looking at when we look for a project. Can we keep our guys busy? And what kind of work are we looking for? How many do we need to send to a site at a time, and sort of when we need them.
Okay. How big of a crew do you guys have at Trinium?
So I believe we've got 12 carpenters right now. We've got 8 superintendents and 3 foremen. These guys travel all around to our different projects in the state of Kansas. We have branched out to a couple projects, one in Aurora, Colorado, and the other one is in Indiana. So we are starting to branch out a little bit and take on those roles as a bigger GC that travels.
Okay. I would like to circle back to one of the comments you had made. Some of the community members might be interested with all of those different trades coming and going from this location, especially with the cranes and the concrete trucks and everything. Did we ever have to close down Fort Riley Boulevard or any of the surrounding community to get this constructed?
So our utility contractor kind of worked this in. There was ongoing road work on Fort Riley Boulevard. We kind of incorporated that into our schedule on when we were going to install the sanitary sewer and the storm sewer. That way, once we did get into the road, we would already have traffic cones set up. That was clear past, that was over by the mall. That way, traffic would be diverted back there. We could work that in. We didn't have to close it short distance and put our contractors in a little bit more harm's way. We have shut down 10th Street just briefly. That way we could get the jib of the crane put out. It did stretch all the way across the street to the city lot on the other side.
That's, you guys have done a really good job with that, because I didn't even know you were coordinating with some of those other road construction projects out there, because I just thought that was the road construction and didn't realize it was part of the actual construction here. And I know when we had closed down 10th every now and then for some of those concrete trucks and stuff, you guys were very professional at being out there and directing traffic and just keeping everybody in the community safe there. Circling back, I know some of the community members have also asked some other questions about uses to be allocated here within the building. While some of them haven't been completely determined, the community room along the first floor was accepted as an alternate as part of the project. That community room is set up to where there is counter space and a sink in there, so if people brought in outdoor food or crock pots or anything like that, they could plug those in and still be able to wash a few dishes in there. It will also have setups for TV, so on game days, kids can go in there and actually watch the football games or the basketball games, as well as it will have some storage built in for if the city would like to provide any type of tables and chairs for evening classes or maybe after school tutoring hours or the like. They will also have some of their other amenities brought over from some of the community buildings to be put in there. I believe there's a talk of even a pool table or something like that going in there. Upstairs, the second alternate was the fitness room, and this is where individualized classes can be held to look at maybe bringing in like a dietitian to look at the community's kind of diets and what they need for their workouts, and some of those more supervised and structured classes. I know Zumba has been a really big hit down here, and I believe Mitzi's going to be continuing those classes as well. At this point, we would like to thank all of our other contributing project designers and engineers, such as Dudley Williams and Associates, structural engineers, Erasmus Scalora Engineering, our mechanical, electrical, plumbing consultants, Schwab Eaton, our civil engineering, Paradox Design, our interior designers, as well as our consulting architect that specializes in facilities such as these, Schaefer Johnson Cox Fry, SJCF, out of Wichita, Kansas. We would also like to thank Trinium Incorporated, our partners here, and co-sponsors. I know we have had a lot of success with Trinium in the past, and we currently have 2 or 3 other projects working with them. But we would also like to thank all of our other contributing community members and partners on this project. Well, Brandon, I would like to thank you and Trinium for joining us today on our video tour.
And Trinium would also like to thank you, Garrick, for hosting us and hosting our project for everybody to see.
And of course, we thank everybody for attending today's video tour.
Today's video production was commissioned by Aia Kansas. The American Institute of Architects in Kansas is the state chapter of the American Institute of Architects. Aia Kansas provides services and programs to meet the needs and interests of Kansas architects and develop public awareness of the value of architects and architecture. Our 700 plus members are leaders in building healthy, sustainable communities that will serve our citizens into the future. Visit aiaks.org to learn more about membership benefits and our current advocacy efforts.